So I thought I'll make this video for you and put it up on YouTube just to make it a little bit more simple. Uncle Bentley was a very odd individual. A lot of people thought, including me, believe he was on the autism spectrum because he had an aversion and he didn't like certain textures, really loud noises. Yeah, probably Asperger's syndrome, because he was a very intelligent man when it came to the Bible. In fact, I've heard stories that he actually knew more than his brother, the preacher, my grandfather, Richard. I've always felt a really close kindredship with Uncle Bentley, because I feel like we had a lot in common. I've always heard stories about him. But the reason a lot of people avoided him is he would take these crazy spells. For instance, there was this one time when he was babysitting my dad and my uncles. My grandpa had left the kids there with Uncle Bentley and Grandma Lissy. So what happened was Uncle Bentley had got it in his head that my papa told him that I will be back to get these kids, and if I don't come back, then you can have them. And for some reason, when papa came back to get them, he wasn't recognizing papa. Like, he said, nah, that these aren't your kids. My nephew Jimmy told me that if he didn't come back, these were my kids. And he pulled out a huge axe, and he was running after my grandpa. But eventually, Grandma Lissy and Grandpa Richard got him talked down, and he went back into one of his stable to where he was understanding what was happening. I've also heard the story one time. My Grandpa Richard misquoted a verse, and Uncle Bentley looked over at him and he said, "Well, now, Rich, I don't think that's correct." He said, "You go on in there and look and you see." So my Grandpa Richard went and got his Bible. In fact, I have Richard's Bible right here, and Grandpa Richard looked at it, and Bentley was right. Bentley's favorite book of the Bible was Hebrews, by far. He loved the book of Hebrews. Now, I don't know any of this per se. This is stories that I've heard because I've always been fascinated with my Uncle Bentley. I'm told that I look and act just like him. He was a big man. The man weighed around 450 pounds, stood around 6 foot 6 inches tall. The man was huge. And if he didn't like you, he wouldn't associate with you. Like, for instance, if you were walking down the left side of the road, coming from this direction, and he was walking down the left side of the road, coming from this direction, if he seen you and he didn't like you, he would go over to the other side of the road just to avoid you. But even with all his quirks, even though I never met him, I feel that he was a very loving, gentle individual who loved kids and loved people, and he loved God. I hope this video kind of helps. If you have any more questions, just feel free to ask. As I said, my name's Cody Johnson. I am Bentley was my great-grandpa Richard's brother. So, if you have any questions, just ask. Thanks.